Over the years, when I've been hearing confessions, especially confessions of children and even sometimes teenagers, one of the common traps or one of the common sins that I often hear is that children haven't been listening to their parents. And I'm sure the parents in the church probably know what I'm talking about when when children come to confession, have confessed that they haven't listened to their parents. Because parents, I know from my own experience of my own parents, often say the same things over and over and over again, every day. And listening is something that we're meant to have as part of who we are. I sometimes ask some kids when they come in, they say, I haven't been listening to my parents. And I'll ask them, have you had your hearing checked? And the response is, no, my hearing's fine. And I said, why can't you listen? Oh, well, I'm not really interested in what my parents have to say. Or my game is more important. Or what I'm doing is more important. Now, two of our readings today talk about listening. The opening prayer talked about listening. The gospel acclamation talked about listening. And we're called to listen. Abraham listened to God. He listened to God, heard a voice and said, oh, that's what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to take Isaac and go up a high mountain and offer him as a burnt offering. The challenge with Abraham is that he didn't continue to listen. He listened once and then didn't hear the rest of the directions. And that can often happen in our own lives. We might hear one direction, one sort of question or one piece of advice, but we don't go back to listen again. We don't inquire more. In the gospel, we have Jesus appearing on the mountain with Elijah and Moses. Moses and Elijah suddenly appear. And then this voice comes from heavens, which we hear. Peter, James, and John were there, and they record this. This is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased. Listen to him. So listening's important. This season of Lent is a season for us to listen. I often ask kids when they make these confessions and they say they've failed to listen to their parents, I ask them to do one thing, especially if they're a little bit more mature. I said, pause for a few minutes, maybe in the church, maybe after your confession, and maybe work out the sort of things that your parents are going to ask you for the rest of that day. Because you can sort of expect the same things are asked day after day, depending on how old you are. Have you packed your bag? Have you done your homework? Have you cleaned your room? Have you made your bed? Have you brushed your teeth? Etc., etc. These things parents often say over and over and over again. I know, having talked to some people, this is a common situation. And so I asked some of our teenagers to think, if you haven't been listening, spend a few minutes and try to work out and listen really intently to hear the voice of your parents before they've even asked you to do something. Because we can wait for someone to tell us to do something. Or the true active listener is the one who can work out what the will is of the other before they've even said it. And I can see that sometimes with married couples, people who've been married for many, many years. They already know what the other person wants and needs, sometimes even before they even think it. And some of you probably have seen this in your own lives. You're listening so intently that you know what the other person desires before they've spoken it. And that's true listening. During this season of Lent, we're called to not just listen to the voice of our parents or our grandparents, but to listen to the voice of Jesus. Sometimes that's a hard voice to hear. Some people say, well, I can't hear the voice of Jesus. A little bit like a husband and wife can work out what the other wants because they know the other, they love the other, and they want the best for the other. We're called to do the same with Jesus, to listen really intently. And not just to listen once. When Abraham listened once, he almost killed his son. And then the angel had to come in and really, hey, Abraham, you've got to listen. You stopped listening. God's going to provide this sacrifice. This was an opportunity for you to demonstrate your relationship. And so we're reminded to listen, not just once, but over and over again. So I encourage you this week, maybe each day, just spend a few moments in silent prayer. Often as Catholics, we can, and it's a good thing, we can pray certain rote prayers. We might pray the Our Father, we might pray the Hail Mary, we might pray a decade of the Rosary. And these prayers are good. But it's also important for us just to stop and to take in some listening with God. What is God wanting to say to us? So I encourage you this week, every day, see if you can just pause for 1 minute to listen. What is God's will for you on that day? What is God asking of you on that specific day throughout this week? And maybe if you've got children or grandchildren, maybe you could encourage them to pause for a few moments as well, to try to listen to the voice of their parents before their parents have asked them to brush their teeth, make their bed, clean up their room, pack the dishwasher, unpack the dishwasher, etc., etc. Let's be people who listen, to listen to the needs of others, to listen to God's will in our lives, and then let us courageously put it into action.